just want to say, give a short framework. Oana has a lot of leadership roles, but I just want to frame today and the things that she brings to what she's going to discuss today. Her clinical practice is currently in as a primary care physician in internal medicine, but she has an added expertise in adolescent and young adult medicine. But she brings an incredible other dimension to all of her work. She's deeply committed to mentoring. She is very focused on the healing art of compassionate humanistic care. And her scholarship and advocacy work focus on, and listen carefully, assessing and improving system-level drivers of burnout impacting healthcare. He facilitates workshops that highlight emotional intelligence and coping strategies that can be utilized for personal well-being, better patient care, but also for team leadership practices, which we need so much in healthcare today. There's so much I could say about Oana, but I really want to give her as much time as possible. So, Oana, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor, honestly, as I've attended focus events over the many years since I've become a faculty member, and just seeing familiar faces in the crowd today. I'm just wonderful. I'm excited to talk to this group. Let me just pull up my slides here. Give me 1 second. Zoom, it's a different button than Teams. And hopefully, are you guys seeing
We got
the
it.
slides? Okay,
You
good.
got it.
And let me turn into slideshow. Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about today is strategies that can help us with this concept of sustaining our energy over or throughout our careers. I'll say that this is a session that's straight out of the EQ curriculum that the internal medicine and med-peds residents get. I've tailored it to a broader audience for us today, but it is one of the core sessions. What I'll say to start first as a disclaimer is more about what this session is not meant to be. It's not meant to be a cure for burnout, nor a band-aid to fix the really systemic and structural brokenness of our healthcare system. But it is meant to be a session that highlights, it really asks this essential question. And it's a question that I'm sure we've each asked ourselves potentially many, many times, of this concept of can I sustain what I'm doing for the long haul? And how do we even go about doing that? And it's a session that is focused on helping review for you all from various literatures, evidence-based strategies that help us find answers to this question. And it will highlight skills that that are in your direct control, that you can learn, practice, and hone and utilize in the various arenas of your work and home life. And what I hope you'll take away from today is an intentional framework or an intentional approach to this concept of optimizing the positives in our lives. The session overview. So I'll just share a little bit about my own background and perspective, so you kind of to give you some sense of why I'm kind of exploring all the different literatures all the time. I want to talk a little bit about how to conceptualize burnout from this energy perspective. I'll share with you all a framework that we utilize in the EQ curriculum that I've developed over the years. There is going to be a guided self-reflection that is written. So you will need any kind of pen, paper, can be scrap. It could be a little, wherever you keep your journal notes, up to you. And then we'll get into amplification strategies and the science behind how to amplify these positive moments that we experience. as I say to all of when I do any kind of workshops together, is I really want us to, one, I want this to be interactive. So please do raise your hand. Lucy's also going to help monitor the chat, and we're going to stop as we go along. But I really also want to make sure that this is safe space for all for us to join as a community, and especially to learn, share your wisdom with one another, because that's how we're going to learn, and learn the most. So having said that, let me tell you a little bit about, kind of just my life experience and my perspective. And I think what I'll share with you is just the concept of that has weaved itself through my own life is just the fact that I am a lifelong learner, as we all are. In my early years, I was really fascinated by basic science. I lived in the science center at college, and I came here at Penn and did a MD PhD. My PhD was in cell and molecular biology. Um, After counting probably 1,000,001 cells in petri dishes for my PhD, I popped back out into the clinics and discovered the whole entire human body and really fell in love with internal medicine as a conceptual, how do we understand the human body so that we can help it heal whenever we possibly can by our understanding and where science is. And in keeping with that larger holistic approach, I was part of the primary care track here at Penn. And then I went so far away, across all the way across the street to CHOP, and I did an extra fellowship. I did a fellowship in young adult and adolescent medicine, and in that time of my life, I really began to understand the mind body brain body connection on a much deeper level. Um, my Since I become a faculty member, where I would say my focus has been is trying to learn as much as I can about Eastern medicine and integrating different techniques, and healing skills strategies into my practice. um, and the Eastern medicine takes care or helps us focus on the health of the energy of our body, whereas a Western medicine very much is a physical structural approach. Eastern medicine techniques deal with much more on a larger picture energy medicine, and we are talking today about energy, so that's a part of what I'll weave in. I'll say that I've done a lot of extra training in mindfulness and positive psychology, and because of, I think, especially the mind body connection flavor to my own career, I would say that I'm pretty obsessed with the autonomic nervous system. Obsessed is probably a mild word, putting it mildly. If you guys hear me talk in any kind of group setting, I'm probably going to mention something about autonomic nervous system and how important it is to learn strategies to regulate our own stress responses. So having said that, let's talk a little bit about what I mean by this concept of burnout from an energy perspective. Truly, burnout is an energy deficit. We express ourselves in this way. We're drained. The spectrum of emotions, the different domains of burnout that have been described in the literature capture this sense, this emotional exhaustion where we feel like we don't have any more space inside to hold another person's suffering, to be there with them, create safe space, and help them in some way. Our internal mental mind speak related to emotional exhaustion will say words like, I just can't seem to care about this person's problems. I don't feel like I have space inside me. And as a protective mechanism, the second domain of burnout is depersonalization. We dissociate with detach, which is on a smaller scale protective and important that we each learn how to do that. But if it becomes too detached, if we become too detached, we no longer are able to connect and truly help another person through their time of trouble or challenge. And the third domain of burnout is more internally focused, where there's a very negative bias that it applies to our own functioning. And what I've learned over the years about burnout is that it's not an all or none phenomenon. It's more, I think, apropos to say that more in the am I asking the question, am I burning out? Where am I on that spectrum? And I have definitely seen in various literatures, both the psychology literature, also the neurobiology literature, that burnout is reversible, and indeed preventable. And what I hope to do today is share with you all strategies on how to integrate some of those things so that you can recover when you're starting to feel burnout, that you can prevent going into a deeper level of burnout. And so let's, keeping with this energy framework, I want us to conceptualize ourselves as vessels of energy. Now, I know that sounds, hold on, stay with me here. I know that sounds very hippy dippy, but what I mean by that, technically on a subatomic level, we are energy. This physical body encapsulates us in this way, but we are energy in many ways. And would you agree that in our day-to-day lives, there are many sustaining experiences that rejuvenate us and give us energy and give us excitement about what we love to do, both at work and outside of work. And of course, there are many draining experiences that sap us of energy. Not just in healthcare, any profession, any job is going to have the things that are more, mundane and draining. And we are also have chosen a profession in healthcare, no matter what role we play, that is very much full of memorable positive moments of impacts that we have, on a one-to-one level and potentially on a larger level, depending on our roles and the hats we wear. But here's a question for the group. Of these two types of memories or events or experiences, which ones do we tend to remember more powerfully? I ask that with sarcasm because we all know that it's the draining, the negative experiences that impact us most. It is very normal to have something draining happen and many other things happen in the day, but what we go home thinking about is that negative experience. And the intrinsically why that is because the human brain and the human mind have a negativity bias. We inherently will remember negative experiences. The reason for this is really important in understanding the bigger picture of this workshop. The neurobiology of our negativity bias has to do with the fact that this is how we've survived as a species. As cave people, we had to remember the poisonous berry that killed one of our cave family members. It wasn't as important for us to remember like the pretty flowers that were in a field in order for us to survive and pass on our genes. And we have actually developed evolutionarily, animals as well, but humans, we're talking about humans. We've developed in the human brain more neural real estate, more space here for negative memories, versus positive memories. And on a cellular level, more synapses are recruited and maintained for negative memories. These parts of our brain, this is the basis of why PTSD has such strong imprinting, in the brains, the hippocampus, the amygdala, the limbic system, basically. And so this is the reason why, if we go back to our energy, the vessel, us as a vessel of energy, why we will remember the draining experiences much more and forget everything and almost everything positive that happens unless we are intentional about it. And that's the whole point of the next portion of our session today is really about this concept of living your day-to-day with intentionality so that you are not forgetting about these wonderful sustaining things that do happen on a day-to-day basis with us. And I hope I'll be able to share with you different practices that will help you remember and savor and optimize the sustaining experiences. I'll pause there because we're about to go into our writing self-reflection. Any questions or comments or thoughts before I move on? And it's okay if not. So let's switch gears and we're gonna do for 5 minutes. So please take out whatever pen and paper you decided to write on. And what I want for you to do first, stream of consciousness, is start writing whatever comes to your mind as what is meaningful for you, what is sustaining for you in your life at work. You can also do this for what's sustaining and who is sustaining you outside of work. And I encourage you to do that. But for the focus of our talk today, we're going to generate this list. So what comes to mind? What do you love about your job? What do you love about, if I don't know if any trainees are joining, but about where you are in your training or where you are in your practice, if you're already a faculty member, what gets you up in the morning? So go ahead, stream of consciousness, right? And I will prompt you a little bit, in a few minutes, to just make sure we joggle out all of those positive, meaningful things, and get them down on paper. Make sure you think about all the different hats you wear in your job description. Think about all the different locations where you work. Some of you all are office based, some are also do time in the hospitals. Some folks teach at the medical school, all the different locations you wear, locations that you visit on a regular basis. There's different things about different roles that you have that are going to be sustaining. Are there any tasks that you do on a regular basis that you enjoy doing? I just did this session with renal fellows yesterday, and I got to share with them my prime example of a very mundane task that, for some reason, since I was an intern, gives me the greatest of joys. And that is repleting potassium. I don't know why that is. It was probably some imprinted experience as an intern that I was like, yes, I can replete potassium. Now every time I get to do that for a patient, I get this like little zing of joy that comes over me. And I shared that with the renal fellows, and of course that was the best audience to appreciate potassium repletion. But it's a great example of, you all probably do have some tasks that you do day to day. You might be a procedure person, you might be example, many examples exist, but even though they're mundane tasks, if they bring you joy, they should be on that list. And it's kind of funny to reflect on the fact that something like repleting potassium just makes us happy inside. So see if anything comes to mind when you think about your day-to-day tasks that you get to do. Another category on this list is the people, the folks in your life at work who sustain you, who give you energy, who, when you see them and when you leave their side, you leave their side feeling better. That those are the folks that are energy providers for you and your community at work. Um, your mentors, your mentees, those are, so who's looking out for you? Who has your back when you're at work? Who are your people? And be as concrete as you can. This is the list is for you only. So put names down so that you really can really identify these guardian angels in your life. And if you do patient care on any level or are in a caregiving role in your work life, there may be people who are in your care who come to mind as also belonging on this list. I've stayed in longitudinal medicine because that is so rejuvenating for me. And to see some of my patients whom I've known since they were teens while they were at CHOP and now they're 30 and have kids of their own, that's a visit that I will leave feeling so happy with, even if that person is struggling on for whatever reason, just to be part of that relationship. And that's an example. You may have patients or families or folks that are in your care that provide you with gratitude, that provide you with check in with you and care about you on a very just different special level. Not you don't That's not necessarily what we develop with every person that we care for necessarily. So there are special relationships that belong on this list. And the third section of this list can be about your mission and purpose. Um, your that sense of identifying the why in your career. So try to capture into words. This includes like your values as a care provider. This includes a sense of what is the call, what is the mission, and purpose that you feel have helped shape and uh, 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 basically guide your career. In other words, this is the finding meaning part of this list. We'll do about another 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and then we'll join back as a big group. If you're still writing, finish your sentence that you're writing. This is a list that you can always come back to. And as I said before, there's a parallel list kind of in a similar approach that you could also do for your life outside of work. Who are the people in your life? Who are the communities that are sustaining? What is your philosophy of living? What are the values that you hold yourself and your family, that you embrace? Very similar type of questions to reflect on. If we can come back together as a group, and I'm curious if anyone is comfortable just sharing something that popped up on their list that maybe they hadn't thought in a while about, or something that grabbed your attention that you feel comfortable sharing. Does anyone want to share their screen or write in the chat as well if you're more comfortable?
I'll share something. Uh, I don't know if this is overly selfish or not, but I find a lot of meaning in anything where I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm learning, I'm getting better at this. My own personal, professional progress is happening. That resonates deeply with me.
Absolutely. And Mark, thank you for saying that, because there's a section on this list that is that I didn't mention that is important for us to say so that you can reflect more. The question is, what have you worked really what are you working hard on improving? What are the skills that you've gotten good at, that you've put in effort and you've seen growth? That are that in and of itself, just seeing that and appreciating that is very sustaining. So Mark, excellent point that you've made. Thank you for filling that in, because I did leave that off.
And there's one in the chat, Oana, Manoj. I don't know if I pronounced your name correctly, but you want to come off mute?
Sure. Yeah, I just put a comment in that hi Yana. Nice to see you again. Thank you
Great
for
to see
providing us this
you.
lecture. As an oncologist, I really enjoy when I review test results and they're normal. It brings me a lot of joy to just hit, done, and know that the patient has seen it also and is happy about it.
It's a wonderful point. That also brings to mind that probably a lot of folks also enjoy the like checking off the boxes of the, when you said the word dunning, I probably love a good checkbox list that we get to click through. But I really appreciate the compassion behind your statement too, Manoj, about saying how you feel that joy when the scan is normal, because of obviously that is such a huge thing for the patient that's on the receiving end of that. And you give yourself, it's a great example of how it's when we're so busy, even acknowledging that is it sometimes can just fly right by us. And so that's a wonderful point of little moments of joy that come at you.
Thank you.
Any other folks want to share an item from their sustaining list? Who's got a mundane task that they enjoy? I love hearing about these. They're so funny. One of the renal fellows yesterday was like, I love a good diuresis. Which of course, yes. But who's got a fun mundane task that they just enjoy doing for some odd reason?
This is kind of mundane for me. I'm a radiologist, and I really love just going through the list when I'm not rushed. If I can just do whatever normal work, even if they're boring scans, if I'm just not sprinting through it, it's very satisfying to me.
The thinking aspect of what we get to do in medicine, whatever capacity we might be in, but I think especially as physicians, the joy of thinking of whether you're a radiologist reviewing a scan and just having that ability to put it all together. For me as an internist, my goodness, the analytical, like helping figure out what's going on with a patient is so sustaining. So just the learning and science of what we get to do, the medicine, can be incredibly sustaining.
And Oana, Arboretta, do you want to speak up? Oh, Eleni, well, Arboretta and then Eleni.
Hi, hello everyone.
Hi.
I'm an administrator, not faculty, and but I do know that some of these issues are across the board, regardless of your role. But I wanted to say that I enjoy the expectation that we serve as a reliable resource and meeting that expectation, but also helping faculty understand policies and procedures and most importantly, being here to witness their many accomplishments.
Mhm. You help us. You help us. You're one of the guardian angels that make our life in various different ways. You help us get through some of those harder things that I certainly don't know a lot about. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. That is definitely the joy. Otherwise, it would just be mundane all the time. Thank
And
you.
Eleni, can you speak up?
I just joined, so can I hear the question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm in clinic. I just joined right now.
No worries, Eleni. We're sharing if there are any things in your day-to-day life, in your work life that are sustaining for you. Even the smallest example, and in this case, we're talking about anything mundane that we enjoy doing for whatever reason, but it could be anything that's sustaining. That's what we're sharing.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest part for me is interactions with people. And like when I see positive results, or from time to time, I will have a family say, we are so grateful, like what we would have done without you. And you take the time, and my daughter loves you. So that, and also encounters with the trainees, like working with the fellows or the residents, and like having that connection and see them grow. Like those are the two things that help me going.
And wonderful examples. Absolutely. Anyone else? Vacuuming my office. Okay, I love to vacuum as well. It's another one of those mundane task examples. I completely agree. We have wonderful, that's a great example. Any final thoughts before we go back to think a little bit more about all this wonderful list you've generated? How do we now amplify these little moments of joy that come at you? How can you optimize the energy you get from them? Any other final things that you'd share?
I'm not very good about that. Sometimes, it's like at the end of the day, I started doing like find 3 things that you are grateful. Although I'm not very consistent, but I think how that has helped, because sometimes during the day, something will happen. I'm like, oh, that's the thing I'm going to be grateful today.
Perfect. You are my plant in the audience, because that's an example of a strategy that we're going to highlight. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go back to the slides. And I'm hoping you guys can see the slide that we left on, the guided reflection. So let's talk a little bit about this concept of amplification strategies. The intentionality behind some of this. The basis of the practices I'm going to share with you all has to do with this concept of neuroplasticity, and that what we know that through repetition and practice, i.e. grit and continuation of practicing, our brain cells and our brain in general there is growth and reorganization that can happen even after the brain has finished growing. So this is like the best news, because most of us are probably over 30 And about at 30 is when the brain is like done maturing fully. But what the field of neuroplasticity has shown us is that behavior change is possible through repetition. So this is the premise, this is the scientific basis of the field of positive psychology. Positive psychology embraces the fact that with knowing repetitive practices that highlight the positive in our lives, we can help through neuroplasticity to help our brains and our minds get to a more neutral bias away from that negativity bias. And we don't necessarily want a positivity bias because then we might miss some important things or not make note of important things that really should be red flags. But I think we would probably all agree that a more neutral bias is probably where we would want to end with our brain and the lens through which we see the outside world. So this concept of neuroplasticity is the basis of why we practice, why we have our kids practice, why we have our trainees practice different skills, so that the hardware of their brains actually can change and make those practices come easier and easier. So I'm going to highlight mainly strategies that come out of these three fields. And I'll start here with positive psychology. Did you guys know that the field of positive psychology was birthed from the uterus of the University of Pennsylvania? Here, right here where we all are? Yes, Marty Seligman, who is still running the Center for Positive Psychology, which is based at 3701. How cool is that? His approach, he's really the father of this field. And I'll mention I cited here one of probably the original study that really opened up this field. Where he did an online study evaluating of various different practices. It was randomized control format, and they measured the outcomes that were measured in each group compared to the control. They looked at happiness and depression scores using validated outcome measures. And there were three practices that significantly increased happiness and decreased depression. And these are the ones I'm going to tell you a little bit more about. So Eleni highlighted the practice of three good things. And this is really important to help you remember the good that's happening to you day by day. Practice itself is whether you choose at night, at the end of your day, or at the beginning of your next day, reflecting on the day before. You write down three things that were good, that went well, that you're grateful for. This is also called gratitude practice, gratitude list. And reflect, you don't have to write too much about it, but at least reflect, like, what role did you play in how did you contribute to that positive event? This group that was told to do this nightly for a month, by the end of the month, they had significantly higher scores in happiness and significantly lower depression scores. And the scores stayed significantly different compared to control at the 6th month mark, when they only did the technique for 1 month. So why is that? It's exactly what Eleni pointed out. Her reflection of when you do this regularly, and it doesn't take long, probably about a week and a half, what will happen in your day-to-day life is you will have something positive, a positive, joyful moment happen, and your brain will be like, oh, that's going to go on my list today. And that's how you know it's working, because you now have more in real time ability to note the positive things. And that's the first step. So this is a really good practice to think about, and this might be one of your homework assignments that you decide to do and see, like, how does this help me? Let me try that out. I learned this trick from one of the interns a few years ago, who said that he began doing this practice with his partner, and it helped them stay more connected during intern year. And it helped them from just venting about all the crap stuff that they had to deal with in their lives. And so this could also be a really good relationship strategy as well, that you could utilize that way. But 3 good things is one of those 3 practices that were that have been shown to really have a significant impact in happiness and decrease depression. Does anyone else use this strategy that has anything else to add to how it's helped? Who else uses this? This is also, by the way, like a lot of folks who are parents might say this to your kids, like, what's 3 good things that happen at school? This is why.
Manoj, you want to just come off mute?
Yeah, I just put in the chat. I didn't want to interrupt the lecture. I apologize. I was just sharing with the group that the 3 good things was recently investigated by Brian Sexton over at Duke, who also works in a similar space. He did it with healthcare workers and similar intervention. He developed a web-based tool. You get a text message each day. You enter your 3 good things, and then they evaluated levels of emotional exhaustion, depression, and happiness at 1 month, 6 months, and 12 months, and they show the same improvement that Marty showed decades ago.
But expanded it to emotional exhaustion. So they looked at some of the burnout about one of the components. I mean, that's incredible. So validated within healthcare and expanded to the impact. Eleni, I think you're mute. If you can put
I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry.
No worries, no worries. But also expanded this practice on how it could impact on burnout levels. Thank you for bringing that up.
Of course.
Anyone else, any additional thoughts on this as a practice? Does anyone else use this?
Raina?
Yeah, I just added in the chat that we do the rose, thorn, bud. It's not the same as the three good things, and maybe we can adapt in that way, but we also do the bud of what we're looking forward to and the thorn of things that we want to change. But I love the 3 good things. I'm going to add this to our dinner routine.
Rose, bud, thorn is such a fun practice. It's such a fun game, I guess, icebreaker. And what I would say is if you're going to join these 2 things together, it's probably a 3-to-1 ratio or a 5-to-1 ratio that I've seen in a lot of the positive psychology literature. Like you need to be, through the worth or the impact of positive to negative experience or memories is something like you need to highlight 3 to 5 positive things to balance out the impact that one negative memory or one negative event had in your physical and physiologic state. So maybe 3 roses and a bud and a thorn, or 2 buds and 1 thorn, 3-to-1 or something like that. I don't know. But it's wonderful that you all do that. And these are great practices for your kids, but also for like if you're in medical education, these are wonderful things to do in your teams that also help unify clinical teams together. Anyone else? Any other thoughts about 3 good things?
Roshni?
Yeah, hi. Thank you for this. There is an app called Delightful. It's not exactly 3 good things, but they have prompt questions. And so, but the premise is the same, and you can keep the push notifications on. So it's kind of like a reminder of sorts to keep up with it. I did have a quick question about does it have to be every day, or can it be a couple times a week, or has anyone looked at the frequency if you miss them?
Yeah, this is data both from the mindfulness literature as well as the positive psychology and just the repetition, the neuroplasticity literature is our brains will learn the behavior quicker if you do daily little boluses versus an hour 1 or 2 times a day will not have the same impact as 5 minutes each day. because it's the repetition. And anytime you're creating similar thoughts, your synapses are and nerves are essentially rewiring together. So more often but shorter time is much more effective.
And Joanna has an addition to the rose bud and thorn. Joanna?
Oh, I just added that when we were on spring break, we were with another family who also does rosebud and thorn. So we did it a couple nights when we were eating dinner together, and they taught us roots, which is a connection that you're feeling with someone or something that day, which I thought was a great addition, especially for the kids, but also for us.
That's beautiful. And that's a way to nurture your relationships. And nurture, remember I had you guys reflect on who are the people in your work lives who are sustaining. And that this is a good transition point to the next slide is this concept of amplifying the good. Whether you are savoring, so just like we savor like a wonderful tasting food or wine or XYZ, savoring positive memories is intentionally replaying them. You know, when you're walking across, you know, wherever you're walking across campus, take a minute to just to replay something positive that you've experienced recently. The concept of celebrating good news or sharing good news with your amplifiers. So amplifiers is a positive psychology term. There are people in your life who, when you share your good news with, will get as excited, if not even more, than you about your good news. And what they do is they amplify the energy. You already feel good about your good news, but then because they feel good, they make you feel good. And both people's neurobiological states get into more of a parasympathetic nervous system balance. And oxytocin is released and a whole bunch of those bonding molecules. So another example of a homework assignment is to identify who are the amplifiers in your life. And your goal is to share even the tiniest little morsel of good things that are happening. You share it with those folks, and those are the folks you share with. We all have deflators in our life, not helpful most of the time. And not the people who are amplifiers for you are the ones that can really help you optimize this positive energy. Celebrating, not just celebrating good news, but celebrating when something goes well or when you do something well is also our healthcare professions really could get a lot better. Why do athletes high five and chest bump and like touchdown dance? Because it amplifies the energy. The whole team gets excited when someone's celebrating. We don't do this enough in healthcare. If you think about it, like we should be high-fiving, like, yes, gonorrhea. I diagnosed someone with gonorrhea. That's, that is my mission and purpose in life. I am an adolescent doctor. So like, yes, me. Awesome. There's so many different ways to celebrate. And even if you're just celebrating in your inside mind, but why not high five someone you're sitting next to, your best friend who's an amplifier, like be like, hey, yeah, we just did this. Like I just did, XYZ. That's the concept here of amplification. So I hope those are examples of how you can just repeat some of these good things, and what you'll see and feel in your physical state is that shift into a much more healthier balance of autonomic nervous system and all of the like happy molecules and bonding molecules, hormones. So the sort of transition point here is nurturing the relationships and your connection. This is the third practice I'll highlight from that initial study that Dr. Seligman named as gratitude letter. The practice that he had that arm of the randomized study do is they wrote a short little gratitude note. The letter is not even a misnomer. 2 minutes max, a little gratitude note, and the person had to deliver it to whomever they wrote the note to. So it was the intervention was a live delivery. And what this showed was that for the person who wrote the gratitude note, they had, after just that, writing it and delivering it in person, they had higher happiness scores that sustained for a whole month and lower depression scores. So just the a small little gratitude note to someone who's on your list, who are your people, your relationships, will help you feel better for a month. It definitely helps the other person. You know how everyone loves to get some gratitude, whether it's a family, who is thanking us, like Elaine mentioned, or it's, a friend or a colleague. Those are special moments, but how amazing it is that we, by writing a little gratitude note, can also feel so much better. And there's data behind that. Has anyone tried I'll pause here, I'll stop sharing my screen for a second. But these last two slides are all about other examples of strategies. Does anyone utilize them that you have something to share? Any other wisdom to add to our collective knowledge? Does anyone have a way that they celebrate? Has anyone done that? High fives or in any way? Okay, good. Well, you have lots of opportunities for picking one and seeing if it works for you. And let me go back to sharing my screen for the last couple of slides here. Oh, sorry, stop sharing. Try that one more time. So the other practice I'll highlight that kind of comes from within positive psychology is just this concept of gratitude. Gratitude, like kindness, is a boomerang. The more you put gratitude out into the world, the more the people around you will express it right back to you. And there are so many different behaviors and actions that we, especially as leaders, need to incorporate into our leadership style. Saying thank you as often as you can and as directly and indirectly as you can, looking for those opportunities in your emails, in your conversations, in your meetings, highlighting when someone has done something positive, raising each other up. Tell your people how much you appreciate them and why, and align your behaviors with this concept. And what you'll see is that you're creating a work environment or a learning environment around you that is full of positive appreciation for the positive. I can tell you from my experience that doing this makes addressing negatives much easier. So if you're working in a team and just this flavor to the learning environment allows you to have those courageous or difficult conversations with a trainee if there's something corrective that you need to address. Because they've already felt appreciated and seen and they trust you, you'll be able to then say, hey, I'm noticing this and I really want to talk to you about that because I think it'll hold you back from your continued growth. That approach, once you've already highlighted a person's strengths and what they're doing well, this is positive youth development, will help them grow and change whatever their challenge, whatever they're addressing in their challenging behavior. So I really, if anything, and I'm sure there's folks in the audience who have read a lot and have different ways of using gratitude, because there are a lot of publications about this. But for the sake of time, I'm going to kind of wrap up here with this concept, the final concept here of this finding meaning, which is in the title of this talk, is really the MVP of all of these strategies, meaning, value, purpose, as the acronym of MVP. And this is really critical. Knowing your why and staying close to that and keeping it close to your heart. is really critical. I helped you guys begin writing this down. And you might, if this is your homework that assignment that you choose, you might go back to that list and transform it into a personal oath, which is a small little poem, like, however many lines it is, but it's the oath that you put out in words of your values, your meaning, and why you do what you do. That can help you stay connected in those times where you're exhausted. When you are feeling burned out, it can help give you a lifeline that helps you climb back up and regain your energy. Really important. And what I'll say here is, how can we take all of this and put it into this notion of self-care that we have? And the advice I'd give you guys is to reframe this concept of self-care. We define self-care kind of sort of in our society as the physical practices that help my body stay healthier. And by definition, these are all things that we can only do, for the most part, when we are outside of work. Forget it. That's too limiting. And we spend too much time at work. What the critical concept of self-care is, that really self-care is the minute-to-minute refilling of your energy vessel. All these things that I've had you guys become fully conscious of are at work. So you can sustain yourself, you can perform self-care even at work. And this redefinition of self-care highlights that it's not just physical strategy, like I've listed here. I call this strategic self-care, but the physical strategies, we know they're important, totally. But we also have to have psychological or emotion. This is EQ training, emotional intelligence strategies for our emotions and our minds. And we have to have pro-social or spiritual or relational strategies that are the ones that we hit on mostly today, were these in this column. And your self-care you have to have strategies from all three domains, so that you are taking care of not just your physical body, but your emotional mind, your emotions, your heart and mind. And of course, that sort of higher level meaning and purpose, and the sort of relational or pro-social things, however you refer to them. And so what I hope you all can come away from today with is this sense of that I helped you reconnect with some of those moments of joy that you felt all along in your journey in this long marathon that we all run. They need to be remembered and savored with intentionality. So amplify the positive moments, pick a strategy and practice it. Gratitude, I can't speak enough of, and really redefine how you're taking care of yourself. Don't leave it to just after you're done work. There are moments in your day that will absolutely help you feel better. And so I'll stop sharing here and just say how honored I am to have you all join and share your own wisdom as you did with one another. I'm so grateful for you all, and for Lucy and your team inviting me to come and give this seminar. So thank you.
Oh, Anna, thank you so much. And if people want to connect with you one-on-one, can they just email you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And is it your CHOP or Penn Medicine email?
Either one's fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you. This was wonderful. We really appreciate it.
Take good care.